it's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless, and I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
No, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way.
It's not about the nail. Wow. Okay. All right. So how many of you have ever been involved in a broken relationship? I imagine all of us have in some form or another been involved in a broken relationship. Not necessarily, and it ain't fun, is it? It's not much fun. Whether it's, the loss of a good friend because of a bad argument or something, or whether it's going through the painful, process of divorce, it's never fun. It's never fun. And, those kind of things leave us forever changed in our lives, because broken relationships are a really serious thing. As a matter of fact, even though you might not say it out loud, dying of a deadly disease can sometimes seem more appealing than going through the painful process of divorce, or even losing a good friend, because they said something bad, or because you were betrayed, or whatever the case might be. So let me just welcome you to Grace Life TV here this morning. We just want to welcome you here, to those of you who are live here at Grace Life TV here in El Paso, as well as those of you who are joining us online all over the United States, as well as around the world. Places like France and even China. As a matter of fact, I checked some statistics on China. China only claims to be, or statistically, only 4% Christian in China, opposed to 79% here in the USA. So we have people that are viewing us in China. As a matter of fact, quite a few people are viewing us in China. So it's really good to know that there is a core people that are over there in China that are worshiping God and learning about Him and learning about what Big G Grace is all about. So we just want to welcome you. Thank you for being here and being a part of us. If you're joining us online, hey, go to the contact page and drop us a line. Just let us know you're listening in. So today we're beginning a brand new series called The Abundant Life. And in this series, what we're going to be talking about is not only how you can find true peace and real freedom in your life, but how you can also do kind of a self-check to kind of discover for yourself, kind of a self-diagnosis kind of a thing, to help you identify why you do some of the negative things that you do and why you have some of the negative feelings that you have within your life. Because all of us deal with those kinds of things on a daily basis. Negative things that happen to us, negative feelings that we have inside, negative thoughts that come into our mind, all those different kind of things. Then within this whole process, we're going to be filling in the blanks of something I call a life diagram. Now, those of you here who are live here have that copy in your hand. Those of you who are viewing us online, hey, I'm hoping to get a copy online where you can print it out for yourself, and we'll be filling that in over the next few weeks. And once we're done with that, you'll be able to have a hard copy then to kind of look through it and understand it and know where we're going, and be able to not only help yourself in your personal life as a believer, but also be able to help others with their struggles in life. Because, all of us meet friends and have neighbors or whatever, they're struggling in their lives, and we'd like to know how to help them. We'd like to know what the processes are, where this comes from, how that all fits together, and which side of the fence they're going to fall on here, right? So this will help you to be able to understand what that is and be able to help them in that way as well. So today we're going to begin by looking at a very important and overarching question. And the answer to this question will be the overshadowing, all-encompassing, that envelops everything that we talk about, that permeates everything else that we're going to be talking about in this series. The question that we're going to be answering today, and the thing you need to know about today is, why did God create Adam and Eve to begin with? We're going to be answering that question. Why in the world, what was God's purpose in creating human beings in the first place? Have you ever wondered about that? It's kind of an interesting question if you stop and think about it for a few minutes, because God is not only the one who always has been and always will be, right? From eternity past to eternity future, and none of us can really comprehend what that is, because we are bound by time and space. We live in this time-space continuum where there is a beginning and there is an end, you know. And we view everything on a timeline of when did this happen? You know, when did that happen? Where are we today? What's going to happen on the timeline for the future? All these different kind of things. Well, God is outside of all that, totally outside of all that. He's not bound by time or by space or by anything that we are bound by. So when you think about God in that respect, then, as being an eternal being from eternity past to eternity future, then why in the wide, wide world of sports would God create us? Right? Why in the world would that happen at any point in time? There's something you can't even use really in relation to God. So in order for us to discover the answer to that question, we'll need to look back into the very first book in the Old Testament, the book of Genesis, and specifically we're going to be looking at, again, the creation account, right? The creation account specifically. I know we seem to look there a lot, and I seem to have to go back there a lot to look at what's going on. But that's the beginning of everything. That's the beginning of who we are, what we are, where we have our beginning with Him, and and really there's a lot of things that we can learn there about who we are today, and about why we are the way we are today. So because that's where we read about God's purpose for creating man, you and me, to begin with. That's where we read about that particular incident, that particular event. So an interesting fact about the creation account is that at the end of each day of creation, God looked at what He had made on that particular day, and on each of those 6 days, and He said, "Wow, that's really cool." Right? Well, that's my translation, but that's what He said. That's what He said. That's really cool. God sat back and looked at all He created, and He said, that's really cool. After He had made the fish and the birds and the animals, He said, "Wow, that's cool." He stepped back and looked and said, "Wow, that's cool." And after He had created the stars in the sky and all those things and put them in their appointed places in the universe and all that kind of stuff, He stepped back and He said, "Wow, that's cool." Right? However, on the 6th day, after He had totally finished creating everything else that He was going to create, the Bible tells us that after everything else had been totally, completely prepared, everything else was done, that's when He created man. That's when God created man. And after He had created man and everything was totally finished, He stepped back one last time. He looked everything over, all over everything really, really good, and He said, "Wow, now that's really cool." Right? So why did He do that? No, I don't mean the "wow, that's really cool" part. Why did God create man? Stick with me for a minute. You got to kind of follow my thinking processes here for a minute. Why did He create man? Personally, in my way of thinking, I can see God creating a Garden of Eden for Him to enjoy. Right? I can see Him creating a universe, the vastness of this universe, and I assume it is basically, unending. It's eternal in nature itself in some form or another. So I can see God saying at one point in time, "Okay, I'm going to create this kind of a oasis for myself to go and just kind of have a good time and rest and relax, and for my own personal pleasure, my own enjoyment, Well, kind of like you and I might us guys might create a man cave, you know. I mean, we all like to have our little man cave, even if it's just even a spot in the living room. That's our man cave, you know. Or whether it's out in the shop, you know, my shop was always kind of my man cave. That's where I could do anything I wanted to, build stuff. If it was dirty, I didn't care. You know, if I decided it needed to be cleaned, I cleaned it. If I didn't think it wanted to be cleaned, I didn't clean it. You know, no big deal. It's my man cave. That's my place. You stay out of there. All that kind of stuff. You know, well, man caves are kind of a big deal these days, and I can understand why. Us guys like a place where we can get away, right? I can see God doing that. I can see God creating a place where He could get away, if God needed to get away, if that were a possibility. Or maybe we might hook up the camp trailer and head for the mountains, you know, and go camp for a while, you know, to get away, to change the scenery. You just kind of enjoy yourself for a while. Or maybe you buy a cabin in the mountains or whatever it is. Just enjoy the wonders of creation. But my question is, I can see all of that. I don't have a problem with all of that. My question is, why would He then create human beings and tell them to be fruitful and multiply here on this oasis, this man cave, God's man cave? And then He throws kids into the mix. You know, He said, be fruitful and multiply. Oh my God! How many of you raise kids? You know what I'm talking about? You know, I mean, they're wonderful. But, you know, at some point in time, you're going, oh, can we just lock them away for a few years until they grow up? You know, put away your clothes. Wash the dishes. They won't do it. You just, save your breath. It's not going to happen. So, I think we find our first clue to this mystery in the verse that describes that specific moment in time when God made the decision to create Eve. Not when God made the decision to create Adam. I think we find the answer to this mystery when God made the decision to create Eve. In Genesis 2:18 it says, then the Lord God said, stop right there. We're going to stop right there for a second because I need to ask, when is then? We need to know when then is if we're going to find out what all the rest. Well, generally, this particular then is after God had created everything else, and specifically at some point in time, fairly soon after God had created Adam. Okay? That's the then in this verse. Is then, after God had created everything else and created Adam, soon after that, then God decided to create Eve. So, look again. Then the Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him. There's our clue. There's our first clue. There's the first thing we need to know, is that then God said, listen, this ain't good. It's not good for a man to be alone. So, what I need to point out here at this particular point in time is that in this search, if you will, for something and or someone that could be Adam's helper, and we'll talk about that in a second because that's kind of one of those weird things that gets mixed up today. To find this one that Adam needed in his life, in that process, God brought to Adam all of the animals. You remember we read about where God said He brought all the animals to Adam to see what He would call them. And at the end of that, it says that then it was discovered, and I think God was helping Adam to discover that there wasn't anything there that really could be that soulmate that Adam needed. So God trotted all these animals by Adam, see what he called them, and he said, hey, I'm going to call that one there an elephant. Cool. Or I'm going to call that one a cow. Or I'm going to call that one man's best friend. No, that's too long. I think I'll just call him a dog. I saw a thing the other day said, if a dog's man's best friend, well, then you better be a guy who likes slobber and poops on your floor. Slobber on the bed sheets and poops on the floor. Anyway. But however, I believe there is probably much more to this particular event than we might have imagined, because after Adam had named all the animals, given name to all the animals, God noticed that not one of the animals that He had created was what man was looking for, was the kind of thing that would give Adam the pleasure that he needed, that could be the soulmate that Adam needed. None of them was able to fulfill the deepest personal need that Adam had. None of them was able to fulfill that the deepest need that Adam had within his life, which was and continues to be and is the need for someone that you can talk to, that you can confide in, that you can laugh with and have intimate conversations with, and even literally become one flesh with. Because not a single one of those animals could even come close to being that, and the original Hebrew words are ezer kenegdo. And that's been translated in a lot of different ways and has been explained in a lot of different ways and looked at in a lot of different ways. And even though that's a whole other subject, and I think we've talked about that before in the past at length, let me just kind of suffice it to say at this point in time that the person God created for man was literally, here's the answer basically to that question, is that ezer kenegdo, that helper, that suitable helper, that however you want to translate, is a power or strength corresponding to man. A power or strength corresponding to man. And probably the best way to explain that is that how the left hand corresponds to the right hand. I don't care if you're left-handed or right-handed. It's how the left hand or the right hand corresponds to the other hand. Okay? You can do everything with one hand, but you know what? How much easier is it when you have two? Have you ever tried to move your house by yourself? Have you ever tried to move a couch by yourself, loaded in the truck? Well, the same thing applies with you as an individual. There are some things you just need two hands for. Yeah, well, if you don't have two hands, if you only have one hand, you can use your mouth. Or you can learn to use your foot. You've seen people that learn to drive with their feet. It works. You can make it work, but it sure doesn't work very well, does it? It's not the best. So this helper, this ezer kenegdo that God made for man, is that power or strength corresponding to man. We look alike. Okay, maybe we don't look. We have arms and legs and hands and feet and all that stuff. Other than that, we don't look alike. Men just ain't pretty, I'm telling you. I just don't find a man to be pretty at all. But I do find women to be beautiful. Especially one in particular I find to be absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. In every way. So, in this sense then, neither hand is better than the other. Neither hand is better than the other. They are just different and yet the same. And they both work best together. Okay? That's what we're talking about when we talk about that God created Eve. That's what happened in that particular instance. Okay, so back to the original question. Why did God create Adam in the first place? Well, the answer is for the very same reason He created Eve for Adam. For relationship. That's why God created Adam to begin with, and Eve for Adam is for relationship. So at the top of your paper, the top of that, what I call a life diagram, you need to just all the way across the top put in letters, God created man for, or created us for relationship. Okay? Or you can just put the single word relationship all the way across, because that overshadows everything else we're going to be talking about. Everything else we talk about is related to relationship. God created us for relationship. Okay? So, God created Eve to be someone who is like you, only totally different. Guys, that's someone that you can truly fellowship with, talk with, laugh with, enjoy life with. So here it is. Since God created us in His image, then Adam needed Eve for the same reason God created man to begin with. So as you're filling in that life chart, I want you to put those words just above there. Put relationship up there. So, okay, so what I want you to understand then is that it's not as though God needs anything. That's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the fact that the idea that God needs anything from us. Nor is it that a man literally needs a woman. That's wrong. That's not what we're talking about here. If you think a man needs a woman, then we've got a problem. Something's wrong in that whole scenario. As though you as a man cannot be a complete person unless you are in relationship with a person of the opposite sex. That's not what we're talking about. That's not it. Instead, it's that God wants to be in relationship with us. God wants to be He doesn't need to be in relationship. He wants to be in relationship. That's the key, is that He wants to be in relationship with us, to talk with us, to laugh with us, to hurt with us, to enjoy life with us, like we do with each other. Like Adam did with Eve, only a bazillion times better. And that the relationship between a man and his wife is intended to be a picture of God's awesome, loving, protecting, supportive, intimate relationship with us. That's the whole idea behind marriage between a man and a wife. Between male and female, if I have to be specific. Why? Because He is the one who has created us and loves us more than we can possibly love each other. That's the way God created us. So what you need to know then is that God literally fitted our need for relationship into our DNA. I know us guys a lot of times step back and we say, we don't need anybody. I don't need nobody. I'm a man. I can stand on my own two hind legs and I don't need nobody. I'm calling one of them great big BS's on that one, because yes, you do. You're in denial. I'm sorry, but you're in denial. We all need relationship. God put that into our DNA. However, one of the problems is that most men try to substitute their relationship with God by replacing Him with the closest thing to God that we've ever known. We try to replace God with the thing that is the closest thing to God that we've ever known. Who is that? A woman. A woman. What? In a woman's case, a man. And in a woman's case, a man. We try to. I'm talking about us guys, but probably you ladies can be the same way. I'm not a woman. I don't know, but I can speak for us guys. We try to replace our relationship with God most often with the closest thing to God we've ever known. She's awesome. She is beautiful. She is the most wonderful thing we have ever seen or talked to in our entire life. We think, she must be God. No, she's not. You'll find that out soon enough. And the problem is when we find out she's not, and if that's the reason we're doing that, then we go, that's not her. Better find somebody else, right? We think, oh, she's got to be somebody else out there. That's got to be her, No, you got to. It's a whole. No, you got everything backwards. All wrong idea. Okay, so we're gonna kind of shut it off here today because I don't want to get too deep into this until we're able to start on some of the other stuff. Relationship is what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that God created us for relationship. He fit relationship into our DNA. He created us in that way. We need relationship. First of all, a relationship with Him, and then a relationship with others. So I would draw this together. First and most important aspect of everything we talk about in this series is that God created us for relationship. Remember that? I'm probably reminding you that as we go along. So the first and most important relationship God has created us for is that close, intimate relationship with Him. Number one on the list. God created us for that close, intimate relationship with Him. That's top of the heap. Why? Because without a close, intimate relationship with Him, all other relationships will be a constant struggle at their very best. and the source of our greatest heartache and brokenness at its worst, often ending in serious turmoil and great distress. Why? Because we didn't put our relationship with God first. That must come first. Without that, all other relationships are going to be in the toilet. Period. On the other hand, the other relationship that God created us for is a relationship with other people. With other people. God created us to be in relationship with others. That's literally how God designed us to be. He put it in our DNA and said, listen, I've created you to be in a relationship with me first of all. Not that He needs us, but that He wants to be in relationship with us. And He wants us to be in relationship with Him. Secondly, He created us to be in relationship with other people. If number one is in place, then the number two is easy. Well, much easier, because we're looking at Him first of all, and then we're in relationship with other people, and we're not depending on other people to validate our relationship. We're looking to God to validate His relationship with us, and then we can relate to others better. The third thing, and what we talked about for a few minutes already, is the most awesome human relationship that God created us for. The most awesome, wonderful relationship God created us for is our relationship with a person of the opposite sex. Wow. Talk about awesome, huh? As many of you already know, there is no other relationship on God's green earth that can be more fulfilling. There's no other relationship on God's green earth can be more fulfilling than the marriage partnership with a woman of your dreams, or the man of your dreams if you're a woman. And some of us have been lucky enough to find that. It's taken many, many years for some of us. Some of us have been through broken relationships where it was a living hell, maybe for a lot of years. But you know what? God knows what He's doing. If you trust Him, if you wait on Him, if you let Him do what He's going to do, He will bring that person into your life that is the one He created you for and created her for. And it's awesome. The woman of your dreams, or the man of your dreams if you're a woman. But I got to say to you that can only happen. Finding the woman of your dreams, finding the man of your dreams can only happen when we keep God at the epicenter of our lives. It has to be that way. So if you're searching for the woman of your dreams or the man of your dreams, the first thing you got to do is you got to put God at the center of your life. You got to focus your life on Him and allow Him to live His life through you. And as you do that, concentrate on Him, not on finding another person, but concentrate on Him. He will bring that person into your life at His time. I know it's hard sometimes. I know it's really, really difficult sometimes. I know sometimes you just think it's never going to happen. Do you know what? It does. It can, and it does. When we wait on Him and allow Him to do what He's going to do, and I'll guarantee you, it's more awesome than you could ever possibly imagine. It is. God's awesome. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is His name, who has already fought that battle for us. If we'll just wait on Him, He'll take care of the rest. God bless you all. Amen. Give God a hand.